right. Well, thank you, everyone, for your patience. We're going to kick off the Rules and Open Government Committee meeting for May 22nd at 2:03 p.m. Let's start with roll call.
Davis. Jimenez.
Here.
Kemi. Foley. Here. Cohen.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. We do not have a council meeting next week, so our review for the agenda will be our first review of the meeting on Tuesday, June 4th. And at that meeting, we have closed session at 9:30 and open session at 1:30.
And flag raising at 5.
Okay, flag raising at 5. We have consent starting on page 4, continuing on pages 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, page 10, 11, and 12. And then in strategic support, we have a renewal of the Willow Glen Benefit Improvement District. Section 3.4, Maintenance District Budget Reports. And in Section 6, we have actions related to the wastewater treatment plant entry improvements, the sewer rates, garbage rates, and San Jose municipal water rates, sections 2, 3, and 4 under section 6. And then we have under section 8, public hearing for the Downtown Business Improvement District, the Japantown Business Improvement District, and the San Jose Hotel Business Improvement District. And there is one item on land use consent. That'll be heard immediately after the regular consent agenda. Do we have any public comments on this agenda?
No public comment.
All right,
Move
back
approval.
to the committee.
Second.
All right, no requests to speak. We have a motion and a second, so let's vote. Okay, motion carries 5-0. That brings us to today's consent agenda for the rules meeting. We have 3 items on consent. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
Move
Okay.
approval.
Is there,
Rosemary.
I know, I was waiting for a second and then
I'll second.
Okay, all right, Vice Mayor Kamei.
I just have sort of a general question. I see that there's a request to travel, which is great, but I was curious as to, I heard that the trip to LA with the chamber was really good, that there was a lot learned. How do we obtain the information? Because I heard it was really good, there was a lot of good information, but I haven't seen anything. So I'm just wondering, like, when these requests to travel happen, how do we, sort of like learn about what is learned?
I can answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we have an item on consent that's 2.5 city council travel reports.
Mm-hmm.
So after people come back from city approved travel, council members are supposed to pull that item and report publicly what they
Or they
learned.
can, I don't know about.
I guess they can, but I always think they're supposed to.
We actually had a discussion about this, I think, on rules last year, or maybe it was rules when we had with Councilmember Perales. I remember bringing up this idea that we should require some kind of written report. He used to write a written report, but not everybody does, and we're guilty of all guilty of this.
I think that, people can do whatever they want, but I heard that it was really good, and I thought, gosh, I didn't go. So I want to know what's good also that others are doing. So I just, how does that happen? I guess is what I'm sort of thinking about.
Well, you could pull it and ask.
Okay, that's fair, that's fair.
That's
Okay,
true, yeah.
I will do that, thank you.
I think Councilmember Cohen could maybe give an update and tell us what he learned on the trip.
Didn't you go, Sergio?
Yes.
No, it's just that the news was, hey, we learned a lot of really good stuff, that I heard it was good. And I thought, okay, well, what was good about it? Well, I don't know, I didn't go.
Yeah.
So
No, I mean, it's a point well taken. We don't
Yeah.
have a specific process where we require reports, but it makes sense that, I
If
think
there
it
was
does make
something
sense
good,
to
it'd
be
be
able to
nice
get
to
some
know.
feedback.
Yeah, thank you.
Almost real.
All right, we do have a motion and a second on consent, so let's vote. Motion carries 5-0. And now we're on to Section C. We have a pair of memos to consider, so we're going to start with our Bay Area Affordable Housing Bond memo. One of you wants to,
Take public comment first.
yeah, I usually introduce, but if we want to take public comment first, we can do that. Let's go to public comment on this.
Alyssa, please go ahead and make your way to the podium.
Hello, my name is Alyssa. I'm an associate project manager with MidPenn Housing and a San Jose resident. MidPenn is an affordable developer, manager of affordable housing, and in San Jose, our portfolio includes 14 properties comprising of over 1,200 units, with one 203-unit project in our pipeline. The need for affordable housing in San Jose is immense. Over 54,000 low-income households in the county don't have access to an affordable home, and we at MidPenn see this firsthand as our properties in the San Jose region are currently facing over 7,000 waitlisted applications. This need extends across all income levels and housing types. The BAFA bond on the November ballot will be a critical tool for addressing the housing crisis by investing robustly in production, preservation, and interim solutions. So this is a historical political moment for the regional affordable housing movement, and we really urge the committee as well as the council to take a position of support for this ballot measure. It's an opportunity to exercise leadership not only within the city but across the Bay Area. As a developer and owner, we know that the housing crisis is regional in nature. So we also know that leadership, innovation, and political will demonstrated in one local jurisdiction can have ripple effects in rallying decision makers in other jurisdictions to do the same. So we're committed to doing this work with you all, and we're excited for the opportunities that this will create at a regional scale. We appreciate the work that our advocacy partners, city staff, council, and mayor are doing to engage in dialogue together. Thank you so much.
We also have Matthew and Huescar.
Good afternoon. It's good to see you all. Matthew Reed. I'm the Director of Policy at Silicon Valley at Home. We are here as well to support the city's commitment to affordable housing and taking a strong statement of support of the regional bond. We have a tremendous diversity and level of need in San Jose, and it's hard to understate how important this opportunity is. It's potentially $4.4 billion that would come to the county and the city of San Jose. It's a lot of resources. We have a tremendous amount. We will definitely spend them and spend them efficiently, but I think it's important that we keep that context in mind. This is important leadership from the council. We believe it's a strong statement and will have impact beyond San Jose. This is really an opportunity to get everybody doing their part all across the region. And so the leadership here will be really essential in showing the commitment coming from here. We are excited to join you in committing to do the work that this is going to take in the coming months. This is going to take more than words in one motion, and together we can get this done. SV at Home is inviting everybody in the city and across the county into this effort and is committed to making this campaign and the planning process open and reflective of the diversity of who we are and the depth of housing needs here in San Jose and across the county. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Huescar Castro. I'm the Director of Housing and Transportation Justice with Working Partnerships USA. Would also like to be in solidarity with the speakers before me in urging support for the recommendation and to endorse the regional bond before us today. As both speakers stated really eloquently, there's both numerous impacts that are currently taking place throughout our community due to our housing crisis, and there's a huge opportunity before us with this regional measure. With that, we do urge support, and we look forward to a really broad, comprehensive community engagement process where all partners are taking part in really looking at how we are going to make these dollars maximized and do the best possible use for all the needs throughout our community. We're really excited that so many solutions are being addressed through this initiative, from creating new sources of affordable housing to all the work that is being done around acquisition and rehabilitation of existing sources of housing. So with that, we recognize that the magnitude of what's before us, and as many of you all know, a campaign is soon to follow, and we will be needing everyone to get on board in order to do that, not just in Santa Clara County, but doing our part in a 9-county regional effort. So we appreciate the opportunity here for local leaders to step up and support this initiative, and look forward to that continued support in the coming months. Thank you very much.
Back to the committee.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Kamei.
Thank you. As a member of Association of Bay Area Governments, ABAG, we had a great discussion and really encourage the BAFA board to really go for the 20 million. I know that it's still sort of billion. You know, they still have it open as to whether it's going to be 10 billion or 20 billion, but I think that this regional effort is tremendous. These things don't come very often, and I think we have an opportunity to be doing something quite historical for the 9-county regional area. So with that, I would like to move our memo.
All right, Councilmember Davis.
Thank you. I also think this is a chance for us to build on the Measure A successes that we have seen in our community. We've gotten a lot of extremely low income housing in the pipeline and even built already from Measure A. And we saw that without Measure A, we didn't get ELI housing built. With Measure A, we did. Now those funds are running out, and I don't know about all of you, but the projects that are coming to me are not including ELI at the same percentages. So I really do feel very strongly about taking a position of support. I do think that I've kind of had some time to think about our item number 2 and 3, and while I think that the requiring 8 votes is good for any spending plan, I'm not sure that we want to lock in a spending plan before the money is even in-house, and not knowing for sure if it will pass the first time around and all of that. I think maybe we should go for just taking a position of support for now and having a discussion about how to spend that money after I'm done with council. Would you be amenable to that? Just moving item 1?
Removing item 2.
That's fine. I think that it's also important for the council to, you know, kind of take a look at that. I wouldn't. I think that having the support is important, and I'm fine with that. But I also think that council really needs to know that yes, in fact, these things need to follow.
So I agree that we just need to be clear about what the law states.
Yes.
and what will be required. For the 28%, that's sort of, I believe that's flexible and can be used on permanent housing.
Correct.
And I think we don't necessarily know what shifting priorities will be required. The further we get in this budget process, the more concerned I am about how all of our interim housing options really cost us more and more money in the general fund over time. And I don't know that we want to, frankly, burden further new councils. You'll have a new council in 2025, and I just think burdening them with that now. I'm fine with having a discussion about what might be included, but I just think what what this says is if voters approve it, have the city manager return to a spending, to return to the council within 90 days on a spending plan that reflects all of these priorities. But the council hasn't discussed all of those priorities, and I don't know that adopting a resolution of support is the right time to have that discussion about the priorities. It will become all enmeshed with the budget discussion right now, and I just don't think it's a healthy time to have that discussion, frankly.
Okay.
Can we just
Yeah,
have item one? Okay, great, thanks.
And you were the seconder?
Yes,
Okay. So the amended motion would be to approve item 1 only at this point and move forward to council?
Correct.
Okay. Councilmember Jimenez.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I agree with that. I was going to say, I was going to support the whole memo, but just to say that I think just to acknowledge that I'm not exactly sure that that's what the allocation should be, and that I expect that the council's going to have a robust conversation about where that is. The other thing I would say, though, since we're just, and I'm going to support it moving along with item 1, is that my hope is that the mayor provides very public and proactive support for the measure as this moves forward, given that he signed this memo, so it seems to me he's supportive of it. So I hope that, that he plays a very active role in making sure that the residents of San Jose, as well as Santa Clara County, are able to get this past the finish line.
Oh, sorry, Councilmember.
Waiting to be called on.
Process of
Polite,
elimination.
attempting to be polite once in my lifetime. I'm not opposed to supporting this, but I do have some logistical questions. So this is a resolution to support a regional housing measure, and I have some questions about the details of the measure. Is it available, or has it been? Okay, so maybe one of my colleagues who presented the memo, this will be a bond that's attached to the property owners. So what's the bond, and what's the amount?
Yeah, do you want to call Matthew down, because he probably knows
Yeah,
that.
and I just got an update about, Councilmember Jimenez and I just got an update this morning at a meeting with the regional folks. Regina was there too, so, but we just heard from Libby Schaff, who's on the Bay Area Housing Finance Authority, about what's happening. Apparently, they are moving forward with the $20 billion level, which is great news. That amount would result in a $19 per parcel Bay Area-wide bond on property per 100,000
Of assessed value.
of assessed value. So $19 per 100,000 of assessed value is what we heard this morning is the latest number.
Okay, and just to clarify that the assessed value is very different than what the actual value of the property is, the market value. So it's whatever you paid for your house plus increases over time. Okay, thank you, that's helpful. The other question I had is about the percentage distribution to San Jose or Santa Clara County. Is that a part of the resolution?
Yeah,
Can someone?
Lee probably knows the details. I know
Yeah,
that we get money, so
got
the
the
county
numbers.
gets
Because to
money
me,
and the
it's
city
really
gets money
important that
too.
we have the bigger voter population, that we get
So
the
it's
bigger
it's
dollars.
return to source spending, Bay
Okay.
Area wide, 20% of which will be held by a central agency to do regional funding for projects. The other 80% allocated proportionally to the counties, and the largest city in each county also gets its own allocation. So San Jose would receive $2.1 billion from this $20 billion, earmarked specifically for San Jose's control for affordable housing projects within San Jose. The county receives an additional $2.4 billion. So it's $4.5 billion just for Santa Clara County, which by some estimates is about 10,000 housing units worth of spending.
Okay.
So it's a pretty significant investment just in Santa Clara County if the regional bond were to pass.
Okay. I thank you for that information. That's really helpful. We obviously need affordable housing funds and interim housing funding as well. I was glad Councilmember Davis removed item 2, because I think that's right now it's too early to know where we're going to be when those funds are actually available, because even if we approve this in November, it could hit our ballots or our assessments in July the following year, but they're not going to be starting to be collected until later. So the money won't be coming in right away. So we have time to discuss the allocations and the priorities. And things change, they shift. We don't know what the priority may be at that time. And there will be a new council. Thank you. That's all my questions. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, and I appreciate it. I thought, I was concerned about the overspecificity of number 2 at this stage of the process, so as was mentioned, I'd be okay with moving it forward to discuss some of that, but I think it makes sense to just sort of focus on the measure itself. That's also clear, all the money doesn't come in all at once. There will be a number of tranches of bonding over the years, so there'll be portions that come in every few years to the city and county.
It's just 1, not 2, we're taking out 2 and 3.
No, well, 3, yeah, 3 goes along with 2, I guess, that's right, yeah. You took out 1, 2, and 3, right?
Yeah, just move 1.
So it's just 1. But I'm excited about this once-in-a-generation opportunity to raise all this money, given how well we know Measure A worked. And this would be to give the county 4.5 times the amount of money Measure A had, just for some perspective. And I was, along with Vice Mayor, excited to vote yes at ABAG to move this forward. And we're looking forward in the next few weeks to the official placement of this on the ballot by BAFA. I'm happy to support the motion. Any other comments? Okay, let's vote. All right, that motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much for bringing forward the memo. And now we are on to the second memo, which is related to the clarity on issues related to our stormwater permit. Does one of the authors want to start before we go to public comment? Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Thank you so much. We, in our Brown Act, had the opportunity to have a very good conversation with the staff of the San Francisco Regional Water Quality Control Board, and I think that it is very helpful to have context in terms of understanding their role, what's happening, and all of that. And so our Brown Act thought it would be helpful for the entire council to also be knowledgeable in terms of the stormwater permit review and approval process. Now, I know this memo says June 4th. I don't know, I would ask staff, what the possibility of bringing someone in to answer any questions that the board may have on the stormwater permit review and approval process on that, but we felt that it was helpful to understand. It was also helpful to get their perspective on this issue. So we decided to bring it forward.
Okay, thank you. Let's start with public comment.
Matthew and Wesker, please go ahead and make your way to the podium.
Good afternoon, Matt Lee, Director of Policy at Silicon Valley at Home. We're here to support the memo and the request. The one thing that is certain is that this is a significant part of the budget discussion. It's a significant piece of the spending. There has, as you know, been a lot of confusion and lack of clarity about what the requirements are. And I think they're still outstanding, and I think it serves the council as well as the public to provide a space for there to be more clarity on this. There's just too much at stake. We clearly have a perspective and very specific concerns, but I think at the very least, an open space for us to better understand collectively would be invaluable. Thanks.
Good afternoon again, Wesker Castro with Working Partnerships. We are also in very strong support of the recommendations in this memo. There is a significant impact in how work related to our waterways can affect the overall budgetary structure of the city. For that reason, we think there's real value in creating a space to have as much clarity as possible directly from the regional water board. And from what we understand, it looks like they're accessible and able to communicate really clearly as to what they are asking and requiring local jurisdictions to really do in order to preserve waterways and keep our waterways clean to manageable standards, and how amenable they are to working with local jurisdictions to put forth realistic plans that also allow cities to address its various other priorities. We do really appreciate that there was already an opportunity for certain members of council to have these conversations, and I'm sure they found a lot of value in being able to hear firsthand directly from that body what some of those requirements are, what some of the regulations are, how this affects with the Clean Water Act, and all the million moving pieces that come from the waterways discussion. And we really do hope to see the entire council to have that discussion in a public setting. And so for that, we do, again, urge support for this memo. Thank you very much.
Back to the committee.
Okay, thank you. And I'll just start by saying, while the council has in various ways had several briefings, most of us have heard briefings from staff about conversations with the water board, and some have had direct conversations with the water board. I obviously do also think there's a value in the public hearing some of the information that the council hears, because as we have this conversation, you know, there has to be a level of trust between all of us. Having said that, I want to ask Lee, Lee, do you have any comments about the potential timing, the availability of the water board, how this could happen moving forward? What your thoughts are on that?
We did chat with them last week, and while this request wasn't in writing, they were aware of a potential request. So that was a discussion point. I think agendizing this for next week, we can certainly go back, Carrie and I, and see if they're willing. They did express some hesitation on timing, I would say, like needing to have a little bit of a runway to get prepared for that conversation. The other thing that was relayed is they would be happy to have a public conversation about their role and how they're governed, and kind of an outline of what the federal and state requirements are that they implement. Kind of some of the information that the city attorney's office gave most of you yesterday, but they did not want to be put in a position to negotiate the status of our permit and the pending permit in an open session, as that would set a bad precedent. And so there's some reluctancy of engaging in that conversation.
Okay, thank you. I see, Carrie, you're here. Do you have anything you want to add to that or say? Okay, thank you so much. All right, we'll start with Councilmember Davis.
Thank you. I didn't know I was going to be first. Lee, I think, I guess I would say to the makers of the motion, the authors of the memo, but I think that it would be helpful for the public and us to have a discussion to hear directly from them about their governance and their what they oversee as it relates to the stormwater permit, and how the powers are delegated to them. Some of what we had in session, closed session, because I do think the public would benefit from that, especially because it is a new part of our Measure E budget. In addition to, and what I guess I might ask for is it might be helpful as well, excuse me, to have staff do a presentation on kind of how we have been guiding how our spending has been guided with stormwater permit in the past. So I know it's coming from multiple funds, but just what types of activities, like large trash capture devices, et cetera, that we've been doing. I know we've been doing creek cleanups, those kinds of things. So what activities and what total level of spending that we've done in the past on these activities might be helpful for the public, and I know it would be helpful for us as a council to kind of get our arms all the way around. Thanks.
Okay, Councilmember Jimenez.
Yeah, I was just going to say I appreciate those comments. I think the spirit, well, I know that the spirit of this memo was simply not to negotiate in public, simply to get information. That way we all were on the same page. I know there's a lot of moving parts to the discussions we've had both in closed session and even just amongst ourselves, even with some of these meetings. And I'll be very honest with you, it's quite difficult to follow some of these pieces, and so I see this as one of the critical pieces of this, having a professional staff from the agency, the department that's sort of providing that guidance and governance over the way we operate our stormwater permit and the other things that we're dealing with. I think it'd be valuable, and that was really the objective of it. It wasn't to, I'm not suggesting anyone's saying this, but certainly not to politicize this, but just simply to bring it out in the open and actually gain a better understanding and some footing for our knowledge base, so that way we can make informed decisions going forward. And that was really what it was about. So you should expect that if this moves forward, it isn't and I'm sure the members of the Brown Act I belong to, as it relates to the budget, aren't going to be negotiating in public. I think we're going to be, I'm going to be, and I'm sure everyone else is going to be very thoughtful as to the type of questions that we ask and the information that we're seeking. And I concur with Councilmember Davis in that I think, you know, if it's wrapped up into one item, and then what I envision is someone from the water board presenting some information, and then maybe staff here presenting some additional information to sort of create that baseline of knowledge for both the public and us. I think it'd be beneficial. So,
Thank you. Councilmember Foley.
I think having a presentation that involves both our staff and the water board might be useful for the community. We have had extensive briefing yesterday in closed session, but this could open it up to the public so they can hear. But I'm a little concerned about the timing and what the format of the presentation would be. As I look at the June 4th agenda that we just adopted, there's a lot of discussion items where we're reviewing fee structures that we'll be voting on our budget down the line, so that could be a long council meeting. And I'm concerned about putting something in that of this magnitude in a heavy agenda like that. So I'm just concerned about navigating all of that and also politicizing from the water board's perspective, having a political perspective that they bring in that I would want to make sure that they avoid. Thoughts, Lee, on timing and presentation? I see this as a long presentation is my point, and then a lot of public comment.
Yeah, I certainly think we can reach out and see when the water board staff is available. I agree the June 4th meeting as well as the June 11th is pretty packed, so we'd possibly be looking at a special meeting before the 11th if that's what the council would so wish. I would say two things. I think that we have the expertise in this building with Carrie and her team and Reggie, as well as the attorney's office, to answer a lot of the questions that the council may have. So what I would implore anyone who has questions to spend time. Carrie is available as well as everyone else. And I certainly empathize with both Matthew's comment and Waskar's comment. You know, about the look into federal and state mandates here and how confusing it is, and the Councilmember Jimenez's comment, it is. You know, there's a lot of different agencies at play here. My only concern would be having such a large public conversation or presentation like we did yesterday in closed session, is we outlined pretty significant litigation threats, whether we're in compliance or even if we're in compliance. And so we're obviously in an awkward situation where we are facing budgetary shortfalls, and there's a lot of different priorities for the limited dollars, which is why we're having this conversation. But having such a public conversation around some of that also broadcasts to you know, others around going after additional dollars from us when we're not in compliance or when we do have contaminants in the water, which even provides a greater, you know, fiscal threat in some ways. So we would have to be very careful, and I think Carrie and team and the attorney's office would have to work very closely with the water board on crafting that message and presentation that we do in public. But we could certainly, if it's the Rules Committee's desire, to reach out and try and spin up that conversation before the 11th.
Has the city attorney been involved in the discussion of having this this presentation publicly?
Councilmember Kevin Fisher, Assistant City Attorney. Not to my knowledge. So we would definitely need to coordinate this discussion.
Okay,
Yeah.
and Kevin, do you share the concerns about broadcasting possible litigious risks to the community?
Yes, Councilmember, that's, is a concern. I think, as Lee pointed out, I think we would need to find a balance there because, there is a lot of information out there already. So, I think we would need to work, our office would need to work with staff and as Lee said, with the water board to try to come up with a public discussion that doesn't potentially make things worse for us.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that a presentation is possible, but we have to be careful about how it's presented and what is presented, which leads me to a path that June 4th isn't going to be the date that we can have it. It sounds like there's going to have to be a lot of discussion back and forth between the attorney's office, the city manager's office, our staff, and the water board to make sure that we're all on the same page in that regard.
Yes, I would definitely concur with that.
Okay.
Let me
Thank
make,
you.
I'm sorry, let me make a suggestion or about how this might kind of flow together. We're going to be having a budget hearing on the budget message on June 11th. This is basically a major portion of the budget. So fitting this in as part of that conversation to me makes a lot of sense. We will clearly have a lot of interest from the public and a lot of public comment around this, which would occur potentially on June 4th and then again on June 11th if we have them as two separate items also. But we could put it together and say, let's, as part of that budget discussion on June 11th, have a staff presentation on the requirements for meeting our stormwater permit from the city's perspective, what it is that we have to do and what it costs to do that, so that it's out there in the public as to why the costs are there, and potentially invite a member of the water board to be in the room to answer questions related to that plan and what they believe that plan, how that plan addresses the requirements they have from the federal and state government, so that they're there as part of that budget discussion to engage with questions from the council, but that the presentation is a city presentation about what we're doing to meet the requirements that they've communicated to us that they're looking for. Does that seem like a reasonable, I mean, again, we don't know that they'd be available on that day to send somebody, but that might be the best way to put this all together. I don't know what the makers of the motion think about that.
Well,
I'll make a motion for the memo. Yeah.
with the June 4th date?
Yes, with the June 11th date.
June 11th date,
Yeah.
and sort of in the framework that I was describing, or?
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. You should know, I mean, I think the main interest from the Brown Act group was just simply to have the discussion before the budget, meaningful budget sort of decisions are
Yeah,
made. And
right.
so that was really the spirit of it. We chose June 4th because we thought that that was reasonable. But I understand, obviously, this jam-packed agenda, so.
And I fully agree with the objective of that, and also the daylighting of it. I mean, I think it's important that the public knows as much as they can about what we know without putting us at risk. Yes, go ahead, Councilmember Foley.
Could I ask Councilmember Jimenez, do you agree, since you made the motion, do you agree with Councilmember Cohen's idea that rather than having the water board present, that they're available to answer questions instead? That was part of his comments. And have our staff make a presentation.
I guess I listened to your comments, but I guess that didn't quite calculate in that same way. Is that the way you intended?
Well, I mean, your memo doesn't necessarily say that they give a presentation. It says have a discussion with them, so that's similar anyway. But
Okay.
I mean, in some sense, what I'm suggesting is that city staff lead that presentation, present what they think we need to know, but make sure that there's an availability of the water board, so that anyone in this council wants to ask them questions, that's the way that discussion occurs.
Yeah, I'm generally fine with that, but I think that if it's only our staff presenting and we call them up for questions, I think just in my mind, it creates a more of potentially a situation where it becomes a little bit more combative, if you will. They may have a different perspective, and Carrie presents something and then we say, okay, water board member, please come up. What do you think? And so
Well, I
as
think that's
opposed to
gonna
having,
happen anyway.
as opposed to having a presentation where they just outline sort of the information, right?
We can
I don't
we
know.
can sort of leave that open maybe about
I'm-
whether
I'm
they're
in-
willing to come
yeah.
and present something or.
Yeah, just to put that out there, but I'm okay with them being just present to answer
Yeah.
questions.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
All right, I think we have a motion that makes sense. Any other comments? Okay, let's vote on that. All right, that motion carries 5-0. That brings us to our open forum at the end of the agenda. Any public comment for open
No
forum?
public comment.
Okay, we back to committee, and we are adjourned at 2:43 p.m.
David said it better than me anyway.